I want to move on, Bill. I want to talk this last part. I want to talk about
Hmm.
4 types of retirement income that people can utilize in retirement.
Yeah.
And I think what like this, and this isn't for people that are 60 plus to think about, right?
Hmm.
This is for people to be thinking about in their 30s, 40s, 50s, things they need to be thinking about, the different types of income they have available to them in retirement. So we have fixed income, taxable income, tax-free income, and then tax advantage income. And again, this isn't something that you wait till you're 65 or 70 to figure out. You work on this now, right?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. So let's start with number one, the types of fixed incomes that are available. Let's hit on pensions, Social Security, and annuities. Let's hit
Sure.
on those real quick if you don't mind. We don't see many pensions around anymore.
No, there's not many pensions, right? Especially private pensions are, unless your grandfather, then there are not many around at all. There's some union pensions that are still around. Then, of course, if you work for the government, local government, state government, federal government, you may have a pension. So the way pensions work is, you're guaranteed an income stream, and quite often your spouse, if you pass away, is guaranteed an income stream for as long as you live.
Yep.
Typically, when you pass, so and perhaps your spouse, that income stream goes away. Uh, Fixed, guaranteed, really, really good. But to your point, Adam, there's not a lot of them out
Yeah.
there anymore. Uh, and then there's Social Security, right? We all know how Social Security works. Um, Again, Social Security, when you start collecting it, it lasts until your death. There's a lot of questions around, when do I start collecting Social Security? Do I wait until my what's called full retirement age? Do I start early? Do I delay? Um, One thing I will say is, if people work with you and we could help out, right? We could run some analysis and say, hey, here's some situation, or here's some scenarios. You may want to think of, instead of taking early, wait to your full retirement age, or maybe even wait longer, because look, this is what it means to you down the road. So again, not a conversation for today on Social Security,
Yeah, that's
but
a long one.
work with somebody, because there's some significant differences in when you decide to collect.
Yeah, you're spot on. And when I think about a fixed think of a fixed income stream for retirees, having in mind that we're talking to business owners.
Yeah.
One thing that I love to think about too is like an annuity income stream, right? So
Hmm.
generally speaking, when people hear the word annuities, pension, social security, just think of a lifetime income payment when I'm referring to that, okay?
Yes. Hmm.
But we can get that from different tools as business owners. Heck, we can get it from the sale of our business. Say we take like a 10-year buyout from the business. I mean, that's a fixed income stream that we could have if we eventually sell the business,
Hmm.
right, Bill? I mean, I think of rental income that we could get off the property. That could be an income stream, technically a fixed income stream that we could
Yes.
get from a business. And so
Hmm.
even though as a business owner, I might not have a pension, maybe I'm not planning on Social Security because I'm in my mid 30s. But there can be other things that I'm thinking about and working towards today, whether it's designing my business structure, getting employees to eventually take it over and buy out. There are things that you can plan for and do today with that fixed income stream in mind in the future, right?
Oh yeah, there sure are. And you mentioned annuities. I mean, annuities are really great, right? Because right, in a way, they look like a pension. Like a lot of
Yeah.
times, if you read pension statements, you'll see the word annuity all over the place. Um,
Yep.
uh, so, an annuity, one, it could be, have tax advantages. Two, it gives you that peace of mind that you will not outlive it, if that's how it's structured. You could also structure them for other benefits too. Look, if you don't want to take RMDs, you can move some of your money into an annuity. So
Exactly.
there's
Yeah.
a lot of advantages in annuities. But the nice thing about it is, we're talking about here kind of, fixed income streams, right? Pension, Social Security, annuity. Um, they can provide you that base of income in your retirement years that, regardless of, most likely, market conditions, regardless of your longevity, you do not have to worry about anything.
Yep.
And they typically in particular annuities, if you structure them properly, they will keep pace with inflation. So they
Yep.
won't erode. You won't have to say, well, geez, my pension, really is keeping pace with inflation. Well, you could structure an annuity to keep pace with inflation quite easily.
Yeah. Yeah. I love it, Bill. I love it. So that's number one type of retirement income, fixed.
Yep.
I think you have to plan for that. The way I think of it for myself and for clients is, what is it going to take to keep food in my family's stomach and a roof over our head?
Mm-hmm.
That's the way I think of it for clients. What are we going to
Yep.
do to get my base needs taken care of? The roof over our head and food's in our stomach. If I can
Exactly.
get
Yep.
those two things taken care of with a fixed income source, that's a win in my book.
Yep.
The next source that I want to move on to is taxable,
Yep.
right? So when
Mm-hmm.
I think taxable, I'm thinking wages as a business owner. Maybe I'm still working part time with that business in retirement.
Mm-hmm.
Wages. I'm
Yep.
thinking about my pre-tax IRAs. I'm thinking
Mm-hmm.
about maybe the business sale. So how, when we're planning for these four types of retirement income,
Yeah.
talk a little bit about these taxable types of retirement income that we can structure.
Yeah, sure. So, and then, of course, just take a step back, pensions are taxable
Yep.
typically, right? Annuities
Yep.
have
Yep.
taxation. Social Security, depending where your income level is, up to 85% of it could be taxed as well. But then you look at that other bucket, that we're just talking about now, the taxable bucket. Think of your 401ks, not non-Roth 401ks,
Yep.
non-Roth IRAs, um, maybe passive income you're generating, right? Like we talked about, if you have real estate, or it could just be wages, right? A lot of people retire, they collect Social Security, and if you're at full retirement age, you could work as much as you want. You can collect wages. If you're below Social Security, you could take a little haircut on your significant haircut on your Social Security, but you could also still earn wages. So that's taxable income, right? Um, if the money's in an IRA or 401k, you're going to be required to take at a certain age, you're going to be required to take some of it out. They're called RMDs, right?
Yep.
Required minimum distributions.
Yep.
So, so that kind of sits on top of all your fixed assets as well. Really, really good because it's money in your pocket.
Yeah.
There's a little unknown because you don't know what the tax rate will be in the
Yeah.
future. So there is some exposure on those, but they're good to have.
Yeah. So that was our fixed we talked about first, and then we moved down to taxable.
Mm-hmm.
Positive note is a lot of taxable. Say we're doing 401k, we can deduct those contributions today. We just got to pay tax on the future. And so now let's have a conversation about the tax-free
Yeah.
bucket of retirement income that we have. So we have the fixed, we
Mm-hmm.
have the taxable. Now let's talk about tax-free. There's some three tools that I want to chat about a little bit with you from the tax-free standpoint, which is Roth,
Okay.
Index Universal Life,
Mm-hmm.
and utilizing an HSA account for
Yep.
tax-free retirement income. I think this is something that people need to have built in and start building in their 30s, 40s, and 50s so that they do have a pot of tax-free assets at retirement time.
Yep.
Can you talk about those three a little bit
Sure.
just briefly and how we can utilize them?
Yeah, and I think you hit it on the head when you said you want to plan early.
Yeah.
Having said that, if you're in your 50s and behind the curve, you can still there's tools
Yep.
we have to still allow you to play catch up. So, tax-free retirement income options, right? They offer you the opportunity to receive income during retirement without having to pay income tax on any of those distributions. The most popular, I would say, would be a Roth IRA, or now Roth 401ks are becoming quite popular. So you contribute to the Roth with after-tax dollars, so you're paying the tax bill now. That has a lot of advantages. We'll talk about that in just a second. And then, generally is, your distributions are tax-free. There's one, you want to be 59 and a half years or older to take it out. And if it's in a Roth, you want to have it in there for at least 5 years. Look, if you satisfy that money is coming out tax-free. To include the growth in the Roth, that comes out tax-free as well.
Mm-hmm.
So, earlier we were talking about the Tax Cut and Jobs Act, and some of these nice provisions that it has will sunset. One of the scheduled sunsets is the discounted tax rates. Right now, tax rates are low.
Oh,
When,
yeah,
when TCJA sunsets, again, if no congressional action is taken, tax rates are going to go back up. So why wouldn't you want to pay taxes now when you could say tax rates are on sale to some extent? Um, it's interesting too. A lot of times people ask, well, if I pay taxes now, in other words, I put money into a Roth IRA, aren't I losing earning potential on that money that I had to pay tax on as opposed to if I put it in a 401k? And the answer is no. So if all things were equal, if I took $100,000 now
yeah,
and pay tax on it, put it into a Roth, and then on the other side took $100,000, didn't pay tax, put it into a 401k, and let's just assume tax rates stayed exactly the same, they would come out exactly the same. So why wouldn't you do the Roth now if you're concerned about tax rates being
yeah,
higher in the future? So yeah, so Roth. The other thing about Roth too, not to get it in this conversation, but Roth distributions typically won't count towards what's called provisional income. Again, a whole conversation for another day. But provisional income is a calculation that's used for a few things. One of them is to determine how much, if how much of your Social Security is taxed.
correct.
With a Roth IRA distribution, it doesn't even add into that equation, so you don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, and so not only does the tax-free income that we're talking about, right, from Roths,
Mm-hmm.
from IULs, from HSAs if we use them for the right stuff, that doesn't count against that provisional income for Social Security. But I think also importantly to note, that doesn't count as your income when it comes to the IRMA costs that we're trying to calculate for your eventual Medicare premiums too.
That's correct. Exactly.
Right?
That's excluded from that. So your Part B and Part D premiums,
Yeah, that
you
are
don't have to
income
worry.
based.
You don't have to worry about the increased premium cost with it.
Yeah. So I don't, yeah, like I said, you don't want to get in the weeds too much, but just having tax-free income is not a bad thing. Like
That's
you,
correct.
you're not going to be upset when you get to retirement age and you think, oh, I got a bunch of tax-free income sitting here that I can grab. That's a good thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's right. Then, of course, you mentioned, cash accumulation life insurance policies,
Yeah.
right? So again, if structured properly, they also can provide that tax-free retirement income when you're in retirement. The distributions from that essentially could look a lot like a Roth IRA, if you will. The nice thing about cash value life insurance policies, which, I think, in my personal opinion, it separates it even over a Roth IRA, is that it has some benefits that a Roth doesn't. One of them is, don't forget, it's still a life insurance policy, so it has a death benefit that you could leave to your loved ones.
Yep.
Of course, you've got the tax-free distribution. Think of it as supplementing money in retirement. That's what we're talking about. But the other one is a lot of policies have what's called living benefits. So
Yep.
let's say you get older and you need some type of care. Maybe it's a long-term care, maybe it's a critical illness. You need some type of care. A lot of policies allow you to tap into the death benefit while you're still alive to take advantage of those benefits. So think about it. Cash-free accumulation life insurance policy can truly be a Swiss Army knife for you in
Yeah.
retirement, right? It's like, well, I don't know exactly what I'll need. Will I need the death benefit? Maybe if you die young, yes, the
Yeah.
death benefit is going to be really, really nice for your loved ones.
Not going to hurt.
Not going to hurt. But what if not? And I'm into retirement. I think I'd like to have that supplement my retirement income. You can't do any better. It's coming out tax free, right? So really, really good there. And then the third one, like I said, is maybe, later in years, you need some type of care, long-term care, critical illness care. You have the ability to take a portion of that death benefit out to provide that care, to give yourself dignity and take the burden off of loved ones. So,
Yeah.
yeah, if I always tell people, if you are fortunate enough to be healthy and to qualify for life insurance, cash accumulation is something you really want to look at because it will serve you
Yep.
well in the future.
I have one. I utilize it with a lot of higher income clients, but I think sometimes they get a bad rap in the industry because some people pitch it as this is all that you need,
Hmm.
right? Like I saw on a chat board the other day, I saw, hey, my advisor's recommending I guess I wouldn't think it was an advisor recommending it, but advisor recommends that I liquidate my 401k plan. Um, the guy was like in his 40s and dump it all into a life insurance
Mm.
contract. And,
Yeah.
I think like those are where that kind of gets a bad rap from thinking that this is the only thing you need. It's part. Remember, we're talking about four types of retirement income that we can
Yeah.
structure, right?
Hmm.
Fixed, we hit on, pre-tax, we're hit on, and now we're talking about the tax-free Roth, IUL, and then I think HSA is an overlooked one. And not to take a
Yeah.
ton of time with the HSA stuff, but it's pre-tax going in. We can link it to an investment account, have it grow tax-free, and as long as
Hmm.
we use it for appropriate things at retirement time, it can actually be tax-free coming out.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so you're right. They're available for individuals with, if you have to have a high deductible health insurance plan, right?
Correct.
And then, like you said, tax-free growth on the investments. Um, there's there's no requirement to take distributions during
None.
retirement out of an
Yeah.
HSA. And then even after age 65, right? Or, anytime you can take the money's still there, so you could take it out for, non-medical expenses with no penalty. You could even use it for medical expenses. So yeah, that's kind of the fourth prong in there, right? They all work well.
Yeah.
So, and to your point, you mentioned earlier, you don't want to just have everything in fixed. You don't want to have everything in life insurance. You don't want to have everything in Roth.
Yeah. Yes.
Generally
Thank you.
speaking, of course, you can't have it all in an HSA. But if you put them together, they work in unison really, really nice, and they will potentially compress your taxable liability significantly in retirement if structured properly. And with the life insurance policy, give you that other stuff that we talked about that could be an invaluable asset.
Yeah. I love the HSA conversation for business owners because a lot of times they have the ability to structure their own health insurance plan, right?
Yes. Hmm.
And hey,
That's right.
why don't we structure a high deductible plan, right? Give you the access to an HSA. You go set it up, but then you can contribute to that HSA pre-tax dollars. And we
Hmm.
have this big unknown in the IRMA world. Your Medicare premiums is kind of an unknown for somebody in their 30s or 40s. We see projections, we see cost. Well, what if we got this huge pot of HSA dollars for you when you're 65 and you turn on Medicare that we can pay those Medicare premiums with? That's a really cool tool that business owners especially need to think about.
Yeah, it really is. If you have a traditional low deductible health policy,
Can't do
that's
it.
a use it or lose it proposition,
Yeah.
right? And the only way you lose it, unfortunately, is you have health issues. So
Hmm.
an HSA allows you to capture those dollars and use them in retirement potentially.
I want to talk about the last quickly here because I know we're on a time crunch here, Bill. And again,
Hmm.
thanks for doing this. This is going to help a lot of people. The last types of retirement income that I want to talk about is tax advantage income. We already talked about one of them, the
Hmm.
rental income, right? We already
Yep.
talked about that, owning your own building, rental income. We talked about that. But the other one that I wanted to talk about was qualified dividends.
Yeah.
And so
Hmm.
let me just tell you personally how I think about qualified dividends and how I'm using them in my own plan to structure for generational wealth, right? So
Hmm.
I put money into a managed account, right? And they're buying individual stocks for me. So I'm doing a direct index investment. They're buying individual stocks for me. These are dividend focused stocks. And
Yep.
right now I have all my dividends are going reinvested into this pot of money. And I plan to do this for the next 30 plus years, right? And so
Yep.
let's just use numbers. No, not saying this is going to be a thing, but say I get $1 million by the time I'm 65 in this qualified dividend account
Hmm.
where I'm owning stocks and then I turn on the dividend income. And say I take the dividend income, qualified dividend income for 30 years, and I die and it's worth $2 million, let's say. Well, what's really cool, Bill, is my kids get a step up in basis in that stock account when I die, which is a super powerful tool. So not only did I get tax-free qualified income, not tax-free, excuse me, tax advantaged income from the
Hmm.
qualified dividends, but my kids, generational wealth that we're talking about, they get that step up in basis that's really cool. So do you have any, I guess, your 2 cents on any types of tax advantage income, whether it's qualified dividends or rental income?
When you look at qualified dividends, I always look at we start with the conversation. So you may get a small business owner that just has a very successful business, says, I'm looking to pack more money away into retirement. Eventually you fill the bucket up, right? The IRS, even if you go with the cash balance plan, eventually you got no more room. So stocks, mutual funds, and like you said, think of that qualified dividend and invest it right and invest it properly. That money grows. If you take it out, it's taxed, long-term capital gains, which is much lower than ordinary income tax. And like you said, any portion of it you leave upon passing gets a step up in basis. So if you
Yeah.
put in, $10 and it grows to $1 million, you pass and you leave it to your loved ones. Guess what? The first $1 million, they have no tax due on it.
Yeah.
Only that's their new starting point. So yeah, really, really strong, in particular when you think of it as, transferring generational wealth.
Yeah.
It's almost so simple. Sometimes people don't think about it, right? You almost think, oh, I got to be more complex. That's sitting right in front of everybody, and it's a great tool.
Yeah, it is a great tool. And like you said, I think it's commonly overlooked. And what I love about it is it's easy. It's not like I'm going to get a phone call that a toilet's plugged or the roof blew off or something like that for my dividend portfolio.
That's right. Yeah.
I just invest the money, the stocks are managed, and it does its thing year after year after year, and the kids get step up in basis, which is a really cool tool.
Exactly. That's right.
Yeah.
And historically, that's been a very sound business approach, or
Yeah.
I'm sorry, investment approach.
No, that's what I always go through with clients that I work with in order of operations. So we always look at 401k, Roth, backdoor Roth, HSA, taxable brokerage, and IUL. That's always the conversations that we have. We take care of the main things first, and then we go down from there. But I think that, getting those qualified dividends, which are taxed at different rates than ordinary dividends. I think a lot of people don't understand that, that if we just if I'm getting an ordinary dividend, that's taxed at a different rate than a qualified dividend.
That's right.
And working with a planner that understands those little tweaks, that has a 30-year viewpoint, I think is an important thing for business owners to understand.
That's right. Exactly. Yeah. And a strong investment tool for sure.
Yeah, I love it, Bill. So we talked today about, a lot of the tax strategies that business owners can use, and then the 4 types of really income sources that they need to be designing for their retirement. Thank you so much for doing this. Do you have any closing thoughts for us?
Yeah. Well, thanks for having me. It was really enjoyed it. And, moral of the story, work with professionals, and trust me, I think plans will come together very nice, and people will sleep good at night knowing they have a plan in place for their financial future.
Yeah, I do want to add that, I'm not a CPA. We don't claim to give tax advice, right? It's important for you to have a CPA on your team to work hand in hand with your advisor, right? To create these strategies and put things in place for you.
That's right. Yep. And for a business owner, probably an attorney that specializes in, whatever you happen to be talking about, right? If you want to, form an S corp or be taxed as an S corp, always work with somebody qualified.
I love it, Bill. I love it. This was awesome. This is going to help a lot of people. I think we're going to split them into a couple different ones because I think it's going to be enough to digest. So thank you for doing that.
Hey, man, anytime, my pleasure. And thanks again. Appreciate it.
Yeah, no, that was awesome. Thanks for taking the time to do it.
Cool. All right, brother. I'll talk to you soon.